Alright, hello everybody. I apologize for the delay, just a lot of technical difficulties, but I'm going to try to keep it short and wrap it up in this one little video so I don't have to edit anything. Um, so today the topic is the fruit of faithfulness, but I'm also going to retroactively do the fruit of goodness because we missed that one, and I'm going to do them both through the story of Joseph. So I'm going to start just by recapping Joseph. We should all kind of be familiar with this story. It's kind of a childhood classic. I don't know why, because it's so crazy, but um, we'll just go through that real quick. So as you guys know, Joseph was the son of Jacob, and he had 11 brothers. Um, Joseph was very popular with his dad. He was the favorite son, which made him very unpopular with all his brothers. So his brothers lured him out into the wilderness, threw him in a well, pulled him out of the well, and sold him into slavery. After that, the brothers went back and told Jacob that Joseph had died, and Jacob was very sad. Anyways, the story continues following Joseph as he is bought by Potiphar, who is a high-ranking Egyptian official. During Joseph's time with Potiphar, Genesis 39:6 says, "So Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome." So after becoming like the head of Potiphar's household, Potiphar's wife is like, "Dang, I want a piece of that." Joseph is like, "No way." And so Potiphar's wife makes up some lies, and Joseph is sent to prison. In prison, Genesis 39:23 says, "The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did." In other words, the warden saw Joseph was a reliable guy and put him in charge of an entire section of the prison, even though he was a prisoner, which is kind of a crazy resume strat. While in prison, Joseph meets the cupbearer and the baker, and they have dreams, and they consult Joseph to interpret the dreams. And basically, the baker is about to die, and the cupbearer is about to be restored, and that's what happens. Some time passes, and then eventually the Pharaoh has a dream, and the cupbearer is like, "Oh yeah, I remember this guy from prison." So they pull Joseph out of prison, and he interprets the dream for Pharaoh, and then Pharaoh is basically like, "Wow, now you're second in charge of all of Egypt," which was the most powerful nation at the time. So now Joseph is just going from prison to being the second most powerful person in the entire world. Joseph, or the Bible in Genesis 41:50. I gotta scroll this up a little here. Ooh. When all of Egypt began to feel the famine, the people cried to Pharaoh for food. Then Pharaoh told all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph and do what he tells you." So there's this big crisis, and the Pharaoh was very confident in just leaving Joseph in charge because Joseph was very diligent in gathering all the food in the years of bounty, and then storing it and giving it away kind of openly in the years of famine. This famine affected the entire world, so eventually Joseph's family had to come to Egypt to buy food from Joseph. They obviously don't recognize him right away, and Joseph accuses them of being spies. And the brothers start to have this dialogue that they don't realize Joseph understands because it's in their native language. In Genesis 42:21a, it says, "They said to one another, 'Surely we're being punished because of our brother.'" So they're kind of aware, like, they're experiencing this hardship. They're facing potential death by starvation because of what they did to Joseph, and they're still feeling that guilt. Joseph, I don't know if he was scheming the entire time, but he comes up with this convoluted scheme. He gets his brothers to go back, bring Benjamin, the youngest brother, and then he sends them back again and to bring back Jacob. But eventually he gets the entire family together, and he reveals himself to his brothers. In Genesis 45:4 it says, "Then Joseph said to his brothers, 'Come close to me.' When they had done so, he said, 'I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt.'" Verse 5, "And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." Verse 6, "For 2 years now there has been a famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will also be no plowing or reaping." Verse 7, "But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant of earth and save your lives by a great deliverance." Throughout this story, it's not hard to notice Joseph's faithfulness and goodness. But what is amazing to me is who he is faithful and good to. The story opens and he's trying to build this relationship with his brothers. He's having dreams that are divine prophecies that do concern his brothers, and out of the goodness of his heart, he is trying to share that with them. And then throughout the story, Joseph shows goodness and loyalty to the people who are above him, right? His slave owner and his prison warden. These guys are literally holding him hostage, and yet he is being faithful and diligent in helping them in their duties. Not only that, but Joseph has these opportunities to betray them very easily. Right? He can sleep with Potiphar's wife, but he's so loyal to Potiphar and so clean of heart or good that he doesn't even want to participate in that. In the same way as basically an employee at the prison, he could probably have left whenever he wanted, but the prison warden trusted him with those responsibilities, and Joseph was loyal and good and accepted that. And I imagine how hard that must have been, like even just working with our employers today, it's hard to actually care about what they have to say and be loyal and good to them. Later in the story, Joseph is good to the entire world and faithful to the entire world as he's put in charge of feeding basically everybody in the region. He's very diligent in his power of collecting all the food and very faithful in delivering it and good in providing it to everyone. When he's a second in command, he can probably do with it whatever he wants, but he chose not to. Finally, and what is most amazing to me is that he is faithful and he is good to his brothers at the very end, the people who sold him into slavery and hated him so desperately. It says that when they reunited, he cried multiple times, like he just had to leave the room, presumably because he was so overwhelmed by seeing his brothers again. It's not even that he was enraged or that he was desperately hurt, but he was just so excited to be back with them. And the first thing he does when he reveals himself to them is like, don't worry about it. Like, don't be angry with yourselves. Don't be distressed. I'm not going to do anything. I just want you guys to be with me again and to have that brotherly relationship. Faithfulness is pretty easy to understand. It's just loyalty or making yourself trustworthy to those in your life. But goodness is a bit more complex. Goodness is more of a heart posture or a state of mind, a lens that we view the world. It's just having this positive outlook, this desire to be a good person, I guess, be a positive member of society. And that's different from other fruits because it's not so external, it's very internal. And it shapes the way that everything else comes across. And so it's very interesting to see how Joseph expresses that in his story of not holding bitterness against his brothers or his captors, but desperately wanting to do good by them and forgive them and think positively about their future relationships. So I just want you to reflect on that story, the ways that Joseph expresses goodness and faithfulness. After this, I think we have one more week of the fruits, maybe two, I don't remember. And then we're back to our regularly scheduled program. But that's all for today. I'll see you guys later.